Peace and love to the family. It's Corbin reporting live. This is part 2 of Future Prophecies as told by the late great Sylvia Browne. I thank you for watching part 1. I hope it was informative. I want to thank Scar for commenting, and I definitely hope I will answer some of those questions you had tonight. So thank you so much for commenting. Anybody else, if these prophecies, if you just want to give a shout out, man, I appreciate it. These prophecies are interesting. Like Scar mentioned, it's always interesting to learn about the future. Just to get a sneak preview if we can, to get maybe a better understanding of where we're headed. I think that's a desire all humans can relate to. But all the same, I want to thank y'all for joining and watching in. So I'm going to jump right into it. And right now I'm on quality of life, quality of death. Quality of life and quality of death. And in here she says, with all the extraordinary strides ahead in health and the world of medicine, I know the question will come up repeatedly about the point at which humankind is, in quotes, she says, playing God. My answer to that will always be what it's always been. We all come to earth from the other side with certain gifts. And it's part of our contract with God to put those gifts to their best, and I agree with her. Most loving possible use while we're here. When that use is manifested in the form of doctors, scientists, and researchers whose work ultimately make our lives rich, better, stronger, wiser, more active, longer, or more purposeful, then who are we to judge who's playing God? Or who's simply acting on their contract with him, with the mind he gave them and the knowledge he infused it with? Now, I'm sorry guys, but that was just so hard in the bars. I just got to read that again. I want to read that again so we on the same page. With all the extraordinary strides ahead in health and the world of medicine, I know the question will come up repeatedly about the point at which humankind is, quote, playing God. My answer to that will always be what it's always been. We all come to earth from the other side with certain gifts, and it's part of our contract with God to put those gifts to their best, most loving possible use while we're here. When that use is manifested in the form of doctors, scientists, and researchers whose work ultimately makes our lives richer, better, stronger, wiser, more active, longer, or more purposeful, then who are we to judge who's, quote, playing God, or who's simply acting on their contract with him, with the mind he gave them and the knowledge he infused it with? God, after all, made doctors too. I just hope we'll never become too small-minded and judgmental about medical breakthroughs to remember that. She goes on to saying, I also hope we'll always keep our spiritual intact enough that it never becomes our goal. And the goal of the medical community to cling to life on earth at all costs, regardless of quality and purpose, as if this is the only existence we'll ever have. Are you ready? By 2050, what's that, 30 years? 30 years from now? About 29? By around 2050, the average human lifespan will have extended to somewhere between 120 and 130 years. I can say it again. By around 2050, the average human lifespan will have extended to somewhere between 120 and 130 years. That might sound unlikely unless you're aware that in 1900, it was 48 years. And by 2000, it had increased significantly to 79.7 years. Lives averaging well over a century long could be wonderful if they sustain their vitality, you know what I'm trying to say, as if those many, many years of knowledge, wisdom, and experience could be used to their maximum advantage. But let's face it, if we only define life as a body continuing to perform a handful of its most basic functions, those lives could also be nightmares for us and for our loved ones. So, just think about that as I continue to go on to our prophecies. Something to think about. Something to think about. And let's switch gears to, I want to say religion. Yeah, we can call this religion. Now, whether you're a religious person, whether you're not, whether you're spiritual, whether you're not, we have all heard about the Antichrist. And even if you're not religious like I am, or whether you're like really spiritual like I am, common sense will tell you that the Antichrist is just going against anything that's just love, pure compassion, empathy. Antichrist, the word anti just against, not compatible with that, against, opposing. So the Antichrist is just going to be anything really that is just hateful, dreadful, torturous, monstrous. So let's see what she says about the Antichrist. There's been a lot of talk about the coming Antichrist, including in this book, especially in the Nostradamus pages. Some believe the prophecy of the Antichrist has been fulfilled in the persona of Saddam Hussein. Others believe the Antichrist's name on this earth is Osama bin Laden. She says, I have my own prophecies about the Antichrist, and I guess this chapter is as appropriate as a place as any to discuss it. I do believe we need to brace ourselves for an Antichrist, but I don't believe he's arrived yet. She says, he'll be born in 2005 and 2006 in the area of Syria. It would be in about 2030 that he makes his proclamation that he is resurrected Christ, his proclamation that he is the resurrected Christ, back for the rapture, and that all those who follow him will be saved. He will have long jet black hair to his shoulders and huge brown eyes. Unlike Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, his seduction will begin with great pretense of compassion, nonviolence, and a desire for world peace and unity. He'll have a charismatic gift and a fiend humility that sends him at the beginning of his ministry to gather his first followers from among the poor, who are easily and cheaply bribed for the smallest amount of food and sense of hope. He himself will live in caves and tents while his reputation takes hold, gathering donations for his followers, none of which he appears to be spending on himself, but all of which it will be revealed later he's hoarding and investing to a massive fortune. He will have a genius for manipulation and be a master mentalist, psychologist, and self-promoter. And we'll just stop there, and I want you to think about that one. Now, I want to answer a question that Scar asked me on the comments about, a lot of these prophecies. Which ones do I feel like are coming true? Which one can we relate to more? Well, for the ones that watched the part 1 video I did, when I was talking about relationships and how marriages are going to be as told as Sylvia Browne, and how she said that the marriage, as far as the normal marriage stigma that we actually grew up with, is going to really die. We're going to start seeing more of a communal. And so to answer your question, I think that is going to be, that is one of the first ones I see now that's most likely to happen. You hear like people calling, thruples now. I'm hearing like, it's not two now. There's a third wheel in relationships now. And you got some people who are courting, and they're gathering more males or more females for their already relationship. So, and what she said in the book that, believe it or not, might be a good thing as far as the children. It used to be an old saying, it takes a village to raise the children. So, to answer the question, I do think the communal, the fact that the normal view of what we see in a marriage in a couple is going to, what couples in a marriage and relationships are going to maybe go back to the, I don't know, I want to say like the pagan days, maybe. But yeah, I mean, that's one of them. So I wanted to just briefly talk about that one and get that one out the way. So thank you once again for the comments. We're not done. For those who watch my channel, for those who have been peeping my channel, that I represent for the Mother God. And I want to read this right quick that she put on here, and you definitely want to read this to you guys, because I promise you we never left the Bible. But she says, Anza, the Mother God, and it's spelled A-Z-N-A. Anza, the Mother God. And she says, Anza and God are not an either/or concept, not a radical choice between a male or female God, or some jarring adjustment to be made in your belief system, but simply a more expansive perspective on our Creator that was accepted and celebrated even before the time of Christ. Do you really want to hear that again? Anza and God are not an either/or concept, not a radical choice between a male or female God, or some jarring adjustment to be made in your belief system, but simply a more expansive perspective on our Creator that was accepted and celebrated even before the time of Christ. The Mother God is the emotional, nurturing aspect of the deity, just as the Father God is the logical, intellectual aspect. She gives us our hope and serenity, while He gives us our strength and our indomitable courage. Together, they are the Godhead, each complete and each omnipotent, loving us beyond all judgments and conditions, that the Father God would unite the religions and that the Mother God would lend the purpose of healing. Is only one of the universe, or excuse me, is only one of a universe of testaments to their complementary perfection. In the early 2020s, even before the healing centers officially take shape, open celebrations of Anza will begin taking place worldwide with a global interfaith feast day of peace in her honor. On that day, even the most terroristic and obscene of wars, out of some combination of reverence, respect, or cowardly superstition among those who don't know her, that they'll incur her wrath, not a single gun will be drawn or a single shot fired. She also says, throughout this book to this point and from now on, you'll notice that I exclusively use singular masculine pronouns like he and him to refer to God. That has nothing to do to disregard for Anza, and it's not something my publisher has insisted on. It's a purely practical choice on my part. I'm guessing that you'll find constant references to God as he/she and him/her as irritating to read as it would be for me to write. Mother God understands, and I hope you will too. For those who have watched my channel long enough and you know how deep I go in on the knowledge of the Mother God, I think that is very, 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 very self-explanatory. Now I want to switch it up to weather, the future of weather. And we're going to go in right quick on acid rain. I know a lot of us is like, what? Acid rain? That's like some rainforest type shit, ain't it? Well, we're about to read and say what she says, what Sylvia Browne had to say on the future of that. So, and she goes in and says, as far as acid rain, I can't even remember how long ago I first started hearing about acid rain, as if it might be just a few storms away. Then, as I understood it, any of us who were caught outside in a downpour would suddenly, without warning, simply melt to death, without nothing left of us but a sad, steaming puddle. It kept not happening, and I stopped listening, but I never forgot about it or quit shuddering a little at the thought of it. She goes on and says, and in 2024, we'll see acid rain as part of an ecological cycle that will change our way of life for decades to come. Did y'all hear that? She said, and in 2024, we'll see acid rain as part of an ecological cycle that will change our way of life for decades to come. Some future mutations of nuclear testing will be a major contributor to this acid rain, as will a lot of well-intentioned space explorations. Oddly, it won't be the rain that sets off alarms in the beginning. It will be a parasite or fungus in the soil that will first be noticed in England, Germany, and France. Now, y'all heard that here first. Let me read that again. Some future mutation of nuclear testing would be a major contributor to this acid rain, as will a lot of well-intentioned space exploration. Oddly, it won't be the rain that sets off alarms in the beginning. It will be a parasite or fungus in the soil that will first be noticed in England, Germany, and France. Testing will reveal that this soil pollution was caused by severely polluted rain, which of course won't get any less polluted as it makes its way around the earth, since nothing healthy can grow from contaminated soil fed by polluted rain. Vegetation will be compromised, as will all the animals and humans that eat it, to say of our planet's water supply on which this same polluted rain will fall. The late 2020s will be a rough, desperate, survivalist era for us. We'll have to wear protective headgear and clothing in the rain, not to keep us dry, but to keep our skin from being badly burned, or worse. All food will be human-made, and water will be astronomically expensive. All food will be human-made, and water will be astronomically expensive after all the purification process required to bottle it. Birth defects will soar, as will animals' mutations, and it will take even more courage and faith in God than we need today to keep going. And she finished off with saying, I hope I have made it clear in every book I've written what I'm about to point out again now. Those who choose to come to this earth in bodies that are physically or mentally challenged, or at time of war or terrible unrest or grave natural threats, are very special, advanced spirits. I'm going to say that again. She says, I hope I made it clear in every book. She's not here to give you fright. She's not here to put fear in you. She's here to tell you what a lot of us so-called spiritual folks know once you start leveling up. This is a boot camp. This is a training camp. This is a school. You chose to go through this because you are greater. She says, I hope I made it clear in every book I've written what I'm about to point out again now. Those who choose to come into this earth in bodies that are physically or mentally challenged, or at a time of war or terrible unrest or grave natural threats, are very special advanced spirits. It's no coincidence that those spirits happen to be around when this planet most needs them, and that the same will be true in those dark future years of acid rain and poison earth. Let's see here. Do I want to go in on this one? Let's see. Why not? Dome cities. You know, a lot of those futuristic movies we watch, you know, we see a lot of dome cities. One of my favorite futuristic movie, and it seemed like nobody remembers this movie. I think it was from the 70s or 80s. We watched it in school. But Logan's Run. Hit the like button. Hit a comment if you remember the movie Logan's Run. That was a very futuristic movie for its day. But for dome cities, she says, brilliant, compassionate minds intent on the survival of human and animal life in the late 2020s and on survival with quality will create and execute the concept of protecting us under towering domes, rising high above our cities. Dome cities will first be built in the United States, closely followed by Germany and England. India and the Middle East will be among the slowest to follow suit, as will the Orient. Although eventually there will be domes on every continent and in every corner of the world, the domes will be made of some kind of three-ply synthetic glass and plastic um, composite, more durable than anything we know today. They'll be retractable to allow for air travel and high enough and clear enough, although intended for UV protection, to be virtually indiscernible to the population living, working, and finally thriving beneath them. If you ever been to a greenhouse, hothouse, or solar room, you've seen the conceptual basis of Dome City living, environmentally controlled, atmospherically filtered and regulated, light and dark on command, all conditions programmed for the maximum health of the species being cultivated inside. Viruses can neither grow nor spread in the purified air, and allergies and other breathing disorders gradually cease to exist, allowing humans and animals to be restored to full health. Plants flourish in lab detoxified soil, irrigated with clear, safe water, pest free, in this new rarefied world that can allow or disallow whatever it chooses. And she goes on to further, speed the process up. She says some domes do eventually spring up in a few regions of the countryside throughout the world. Many people not only take refuge there, but actually form successful communal farms and an incredible close-knit society, having somehow survived a red void outside the domes and then nurse themselves and one another back to health when they find their way back inside. Several of them will go on to become the backbone of the reintegrated society later in the millennium in around 2060, when the Earth's atmosphere has healed itself enough for us to venture out of the domes and being to travel freely on this planet again, having learned from our mistakes. I'll tell you, what a future. And a lot of these prophecies I'm telling y'all right now, just like her, it wasn't to scare you. It was to prepare you. It was to have you prepared. It was to let you know that you have a choice in all this. That's really the main reason. Let me see what else I got for y'all. I think we're headed at 216. I think we did. I think we definitely did 216. Let's go on about a word about jewelry and tattoos. And she says, don't worry, a lot of extreme body piercing will be out of style by about 2007. Although tattooing is actually going to become even more popular and more artistic about around 2010. We're also going to start wearing less and less jewelry by sometime around 2018. But what I find really interesting is that most of us will have at least one piercing on our bodies. The majority of us will go right on using those piercings for earrings. Some more adventurous or machiotic, I think she says, souls will continue to choose their noses, tongues, or more discreet body parts. And these piercings will serve a dual purpose. Not only will they be decorative, but they'll also provide safe housing for microchips containing all of our personal information: name, address, social security number, driver license number, blood type, medical alert, and insurance information, person to contact in case of emergency, and so on. This microchip can be detected and read by a small scanner that will be installed in every emergency vehicle, hospital, doctor's office, and police car. Yes, exactly like we routinely provide for our dogs and cats now, which I'm sure already occurred to a whole lot of you. So wouldn't you think? I'm sure I don't even need to finish that question. And I'm just continue going on. A few things she's talking about. She's talking about future treatments. We're going on future treatments. Just trying to see if anything just sticks out. And I actually want to go back to the whole relationship thing. And I want to read that one again. So that was really, I think, really interesting what she said about relationships in the future. So I want to go on that one. Let's start with marriage. I want to read this one again. She says by 2020, we're going to see an end to the institution of marriage as we know it. So this is the answer, another one of Scar's questions. Look where we at right now in relationships, couples, whatnot, and the divorce rate, the rise of the divorce rates, the continual rise of the divorce rate. She says, I'm sure there were a few gaps when you read that, and I admit I felt a bit of a twinge. And she goes in on the most recent statistics I read was that 49, this was back in 2008, that 49 out of every 100 marriages end in divorce. She said, if I were just to go by the clinics I talked to in the course of a week, I would guess that percentage is higher than that. But her going into communal living, she says, now that I have thoroughly irritated a lot of you, I might as well go ahead and irritate even more of you by saying that follow the demise, she says, the death of the institution of marriage and the subsequent realization that civil unions aren't serving that much of a purpose either. For either of the adults, it becomes acceptable around 2050 for everyone to have several partners. That's 29 years, right? In the future. Several partners. For everyone to have several partners. Notice I said everyone. Everybody? Forever, ever? Forever, ever? Yes, it's both men and women, this time for whom multiple partners will eventually be acceptable, and it may or may not surprise you that men will have a hard time adjusting to this arrangement. I bet so. Maybe for some, maybe for not. But she says children results from these partnerships though. The benefits come from the children. They benefit from the communal living and the demise of the institution of marriage. She said children result from these partnerships, needless to say, but it's refreshing to note that maybe because people have almost unlimited freedom, there's a remarkable amount of responsibility about birth control, and the children almost without exception are planned by two parents who are seriously interested in having them and raising them. Once again, that quote, it takes a village to raise a child, swings into action in the commune from the moment a baby arrives. And there's certainly no lack of love, attention, and excellent schooling for the children in these groups, nor is there such thing as a deadbeat dad or mom. If failing to support their child even enter their mind, they would be shamed out of a town so fast they wouldn't know what hit them. Now, a lot of us parents, man, you just seen untrained, immature, still young in the mind parents. You like, man, I tell you, somebody need to whoop their ass. So what she's saying is we're leading in the future with the demise of the institution of marriage and the rising of communal living and us having several partners, not just being booed up with one person, that it's going to be beneficial to the kids. That you ain't got to worry about no deadbeat dads or moms too busy worried about boyfriend or whatnot. Everybody in the community, because they already knit tight anyway, is going to have a hand in making sure that you playing your role as a parent. I think that's major no matter how you look at that. No matter how you look at that, for real. So, listen, I want to thank y'all. I'm going to see if I'm just going to flip through here a little bit, see if there's anything that can, but I think I'm going to just wrap this up. I thank y'all for rocking with me. I really do. I'm going to end it with a reading from the Australia Aborigines. Hold up, I want to finish with this. Spirituality, the benediction. She says, from 2060 to 2100, 2100, I see a gorgeous period of peace, tolerance, understanding, and profound global unity. From 2060 to 2100, I see a gorgeous period of peace, tolerance, understanding, and profound global unity and compassion. It's as if all the countries around the world finally get it and feel the moral need to make up for the centuries of cruel, greedy, arrogant damage they inflicted on one another at the expense of the only planet we humans have been given to care for and live these lives on. From 2100 on, I see nothing, she says. That doesn't mean we only have 100 more years of life on this earth. God only knows. And I mean that as literally as you can possibly take it. God only knows. He's the only all-knowing one in the infinite, eternal universe. All the rest of us can do is listen, pay attention, find the light in ourselves and those around us, and then for God's sake, get out there together and shine that light so brightly, he'll see that we finally understand what so many people have been trying to tell us for about thousands and thousands of years. And I'm going to end this presentation on one of the tribes, the Australian Aborigines. And if you do your research on the Australian Aborigines, they're actually older than the Mayans, the Egyptians in Egypt. They're old. They're ancestry old legends. And I want to read to you what one of the ancestors from the Australian Aborigines said. And I want you to take this into your everyday living. We've got to learn to love one another. You see, that's really what's going to happen to the earth. We're going to have tidal waves. We're going to have earthquakes. That's coming because we don't consider this land as our mother. We have taken away the balance and we've not put it back. Understand that. And the Incas said this. The shaman Incas said this. Follow your own footsteps. Learn from the rivers, the trees, and the rocks. Honor the Christ, the Buddha, your brother and sisters. Honor your earth mother and the great spirit. Honor yourself and all of creation. Look with the eyes of your soul and gaze the essential. Family, this has been Darius Corey Presents the Future Prophecies as told as the late great Sylvia Browne. The next step for me and my elite and light ones is healing. Healing from our past wounds, healing from past hurt, and knowing that we are greater. I thank you for watching. Peace and love to the family. I'm out.